everyone, thank you so much for the opportunity of being here. I would like to present part of my results of my doctoral work, but I guess I need to put it here.
Momento, vou sair e vamos entrar de novo, porque acho que eu botei aqui. Você já tirou?
Não, tá aí.
Ah, tá aí, ok.
Jardim, Tübingen,
Tübingen, essa. Ok. Eu vou te apresentar primeiro e depois. Agora, very welcome to our session now. We are here in the section. Yeah? In the section of agriculture that started yesterday, and with this, Georgia Shadao from the University of Brasilia came here to make a co-moderation together with me and Birgit Feiner from the University of Hohenheim. And in this session, A2, we wanted to focus a bit more on the social perspectives on agriculture, the socio-ecological transformations, and more specifically about the rural-urban food networks and political approaches for food justice and food security. And we are very happy that our first presenter is Felipe Chachim. He has an interesting biography between sociology and right. So he studied law in the bachelor and then in the master urban development at the University of Pernambuco, and he's now doing his PhD between the UERJ in Rio de Janeiro and in Jena. And I think this is your work, and we are very happy now to learn more about community gardens and right to food.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. So this is part of my doctoral work that I've been developing in the last 5 years. And I'm doing a contrast between Rio de Janeiro and Berlin. And just to an important note, it's not like a comparison. I don't want to check which is the best or the worst point. It's a contrast of point of views, how other things working. So I need to explain that the background is regarding the urban crisis. I'm studying law, but specifically city law, urban law, and in the environmental sociology. Involving these two sciences, two disciplines, I focus on the violation of the right to food and vacant land, an urban issue, a growing issue in multiple cities. So when we're talking about right to food, specifically, I'm talking about food availability, accessibility, acceptability, and sustainability. In vacant land, I'm talking about unused, underused, and unbuilt land. So with these problems, we have a common point, that's the view of food and land as commodities to be explored for the exchange value. But we are facing many problems in the cities, and this requires social, ecological transformation. One of the multiple possibilities is if we observe food and land as commons. This is a theory from economics, but also can be applied from multiple sciences, including the urban studies. And when we do it, we are talking about urban commons. This is public energy parks. How do we see the streets and the things that we need to share, the resources, the air, the sun, the soil. And one example of urban commons is community garden. So my research question is how the community gardens are related to right to food, the legal part, but also the sociological, observing the praxis of the people that are working in community gardens. Because the other part is already known by the literature review, and I'm trying to focus on that point. specifically in two cities, here and Berlin. So the objective of my work was to examine these activities and focus how are the activities related to the human right to food, like the four concepts, and check the reasons for it. How are the things inside Berlin? How are the things inside Rio de Janeiro? And are they similar between cities or are they different? So, first, why have I chosen these cities? Berlin has vacant land problem, but also problems related to right to food. It's a developed country, rich economy, but it has problems related to food security and food sustainability. And also, Berlin has a long history of urban agriculture, including in law, regulating the climate garden system, and food security was already an issue after the war. And you see how people are relating since a long time to the nature in the city producing food. Nowadays, Berlin has more than 230 community gardens and other spaces related to food growing. On the other hand, Rio de Janeiro is also facing problems with vacant land, growing problem, many different possibilities of violations of right to food in Brazil, and also is tackling the issues of vacant land and right to food problems using community gardens. There's a public policy of the Cariocas that since 2006 is being developed by the City Hall, and in 2019 was elected by United Nations as a model of sustainable development. So here you can see a map of, in the green dots, where are the gardens spread around the city. So my hypothesis was that community gardens, in community gardens having activities that are connected to right to food. And these connections is varying according to different socioeconomic contexts and unique urban challenges, because every city has your different history, culture, socioeconomic differences within each city and between cities. So the theoretical framework was based on three main pillars: right to food, urban commons, and community gardens. And during the thesis I was developing this in the chapters. And empirically, I went to the field in Berlin in person, and in Rio de Janeiro online because of the pandemic. I was living in Germany in the last years. And I went to do interviews with experts, policymakers, researchers, professionals, and gardeners, people that are doing the activity as amateurs, volunteers. These are people doing the commons. The commoners are people doing the commons activities. So I did the data collection, data organization, and data analysis according to some codes that I detailed better in the methodological chapter of the thesis. And the main important thing is to identify what exactly are the activities happening in these community gardens related to each of these categories of right to food. Because usually we say human right of food, but we don't go deeper to understand how is in the practice working. And I tried to organize this according to the United Nations documents related to right to food, but also according to the literature review. So I created these categories, and these are the activities that I checked one by one in Rio and Berlin, within each city and between cities. So, for example, we have this community garden in Tempelhoferfeld in Berlin, a former airport, and this is an example of food activity, growing food activity in public open spaces. This is activity related to food availability, one of the categories of right to food. And here you can see, this is a complex of gardens. There's various maps, but here you can see that these 5 are here. However, food availability is being threatened by, for example, in this case of Berlin, the real estate market. So this was noticed by the literature, but also during my interviews. So you see during the expert in Berlin, the interview number 4, He is talking about how the gardens are forced to move to produce sports areas because there are some political interests. So this is better seen for votes, and how this is increasing the pressure of the ground in Berlin. In Rio de Janeiro, this is the same photo that I showed a few slides before, but if you take a look, this is the complete version of the garden. But in the last years, 2023, part of the garden was starting to be removed and destroyed. So the militia, the dealers, were constructing houses to make more difficult to the police come inside that areas because it was an open field, and then they were occupying part of the gardens. So this was a problem to food availability in Rio de Janeiro. So we see that both cities have problems, but by different agents. One is the politicians in public state, and here we have private agents. And this is also was noticed by the literature and during the interviews. Expert number 8 said about urban violence and the relations to produce community gardens. So, going specifically to the results in Berlin, this was the complete version of places that I have been visiting, trying to find interviews during 21 and 22, more specifically, and finishing 23. And one of the results I would like to highlight is the case of Prinzessinnengarten. It's a former graveyard that was not longer, since a few decades, receiving bodies. So nowadays you see the social ecological transformation of the vacant land to produce food. So there is links to food availability, we have links to social sustainability, economic version, because this is a store for selling plants, so it's generating income, employees, people are hired, some of the people are hired, they are volunteers, so you can also create jobs. And there are musicians, this is a space for leisure, and you can also grow, touch the food, be a volunteer, and also collect in some specific days if you work there. But you can also buy fresh food in the restaurant, the cafe. Yeah, around €8 you can have this generally vegan or vegetarian food. Another case in Berlin, the Moritzplatzgarten, it's you see in the beginning of the last century, it was a former store, a really big store, but during the war it was destroyed. So you can see the shape, how it fits with this image, because it was decades and decades of vacant land until the garden starts to be growing. On the other hand, in here, this is the places that I could check online interviews, and you see it's there are many gardens around the forest of Tijuca. This is also a kind of environmental protection, and this example specifically in Horta Carioca do Morro de São Carlos. You can see in here this roof in the background, but in the past this was a dumping ground. So you can see again how vacant land can be transformed in a social, ecological, and economic opportunity. Because there are some people generating income, they are donating to poor people in the surrounds, and they are also developing themselves, the personal activity. In another case, you can see under the transmission of energy lines, one of the gardens in Morro da Formiga, and in the back you can see some favelas, and most probably, if this area was not occupied by the community garden, probably some irregular and unsafe housing would be there, creating some risk to the people. And this was the only garden that I could visit just before I moved to Germany. So I need to recognize that I have many research limitations, especially because of the pandemic. weather conditions in Germany, the winter, like so long, so if you go for many months, you find no one in the gardens or they are closed. Language barriers, lack of open access. I know that my sample is limited. I did 40 interviews, 20 in each city, and of course there's subjective data interpretation. But even though I can affirm that my study contributed to the literature review, so this was already established, and I could find a gap here in the economic sustainability of Berlin, and also there was some divergence what was already talked about Rio de Janeiro in food availability, specifically about the motivation for gardening and how people are doing community gardening as a professional, so generating also income in Berlin. And then I could add to the literature a few contributions, specifically in Berlin, to income generation related to food and ancestral wisdom. So it's cultural part of food. People talking about the immigrant past, how the families, the grandparents were producing and cultivating food, and they want to take this again. In Rio de Janeiro, the education for children is in the literature current, but I could find the adults are also doing the education related to environmental education and food culture, how to take care of the food and what to prepare, how to prepare. And an interesting case of gender empowerment. There was a community garden here just for female gardeners, and they created a safety network to protect themselves. So when they note that something is weird between with another colleague, they talk and they can share. And in some cases, they went to authorities, to public authorities, to give the correct direction, legal direction. So it's another way of access rights based on social sustainability. So finally, what's the thesis, Felipe? Oh, you told me a lot of things, and okay, I confirm that the community gardens can be connected to right to food. So check. The connection really varies according to socioeconomic context and unique urban challenges, the actors, the problems, why people are producing food to donate in here, because food insecurity, and they want to contribute to the surround, which is not a need, urgent need in Berlin. But I need to add to my hypothesis that chemical and pesticides, artificial fertilizers, it's the only common activity between these two cities. 100% common. All of the others have some variations according to the socioeconomic aspects or unique urban challenges. So if we have one common point between these two cities, I can affirm that agroecological food production is one exception to this variation, to this social part of the study variation. So the right to food, the legal part can be sustained, and the sociological has some variations, except for this specific part. So finally, what is implicates? So we're talking about fighting urban backland. We're talking about how to promote right to food, and the beginning, the first slide was about the urban crisis. So this is an issue to mitigate the problem. Community gardens are not going to solve the right to food violation problem, but this is a step, a tool to be open for more tools and more ways to fight backland problems and promote the right to food. So regarding the law part, the urbanistic part, food is not often seen as a social function of the city. When we think about food production, we usually think about the land, the rural area, and this study is contributing also to bring the food as an issue of urban question. And food and as use value, but exchange value as a commodity. This is also important because we're talking about public policies in Berlin and in Rio, both, but also this could be a model for many other cities, they are looking for more sustainability actions related to environmental education, for example, or even the ones that wants to provide more food. Because the program in here, for example, in 1 year they could produce 80 tons of food. And this is not solving the problem of food insecurity in Rio, but it's contributing to mitigate it. It was really special during the pandemic. And finally, the agroecological food production is one international point connecting these both cities. And a little show that we have one step for social and ecological transformation. So promoting, protecting, guaranteeing the community governance is really essential. So we keep going, moving forward to new steps. That's it.
Thank you. Obrigado, Felipe. Yeah, the floor is now open for questions and comments.
Thank you, Felipe, for the nice presentation. My name is Thomas Higgett from the University of Berlni. It's very interesting what you showed, and I think it's something which we require in the future because space will be also with the growing population decreasing. On the other side, having gardens in the cities may also, particularly if you look at these kind of overpopulated areas like Rio de Janeiro or many other cities in the world, we need also this green in the city to improve the environment. We had a similar situation in East Africa, but this was in rural areas or peri-urban areas, and there people had sometimes little areas of no ground, and also the motivation was to grow nothing there because there were snakes and poisonous snakes, so they keep them away. And therefore we started a lot of things which go into putting something on concrete ground, where you have something which borders the material, and then you have the possibility to put some seeds in and you can raise some food. Did you also consider such kind of concepts, or you were just monitoring what was there, or are these kind of activities already available in these areas?
Yes.
Considering also, let's say, the rooftop.
My focus was in the legal part because of my undergraduate studies, and I was now introducing the sociological part. So I wasn't specifically detailing about food, soil contamination and this kind of things, but what I could notice in Rio, first they need to remove the soil, they bring new soil, compost, and then they can produce directly on the soil. In Berlin, because of the graveyards or the airport area or the soil contamination in general, they are planting in boxes, like upper elevated boxes. So they are also aware of it. It's a really important issue. And of course, the food production needs all the cares. But in general, in terms of thinking of social function of the city, of the property, it's an important project, important tool.
I would also have a question because your focus is on commons, and commons means sharing resources and taking decisions together. Have you found there are differences because there's a lot that you could share and not share in a community garden, like sharing the harvest, or everybody in this garden has its own slot and takes this away? And also I think maybe the motivation behind can be different, that people really produce for their own food production to not buy, or is it more like in Germany sometimes more laser hobby activity, and then you don't bother so much how much I get or how much I not get? Did you find there any differences regarding really the organizing of this commons?
So inside Rio, in general, it's a public policy, so it has some patterns of organization, but people have the power of choice, what they want to plant, when, and where exactly, so they have more freedom. And the policy is strictly for donation. 50% of the production is for donation, for schools, for the neighbors, for hospitals, and the other 50 they can sell. But they sell for 1 to has like a 30-40 euro cents, just to reinvest, to buy more seeds, and take care of the garden by their tools, so it's not to generate income. So in this case, their motivation is really to contribute to the neighborhood, and a few of them receive some small amount of money, like 100 euros monthly, and this is like complementing the household income. So there are old people, retired, that they need some complement, and they also are motivated for this. But in general, they are new thinking about the past. Many of the interviews were from Minas Gerais, so there's a rural mentality of the childhood that they want to be in connection again with the nature, and this brings peace. I love this. This is one of the most comments that I listen. Like, this makes me happy. I like to help people. In Berlni, there are multiple ways. Like Prinzessin Garten, it's a really collective, big area, a big plot. But in multiple others, there was small plots that you rent, you pay. Like a few euros by semester to contribute with the water and to buy tools. And they are there for leisure, hobby, is like to a free mind after work, just to enjoy a bit the sun, because they don't live close to the any park or something like this, and then they want to be in touch with the nature. So in general, they have a high household income, they have a job, a main job, and this is not even to eat themselves, because there's not so much amount of production. The sun, the soil, many conditions. So many times I see many green things, but just 1-2 tomatoes, and it's really precious for them. They say it's really flavor, and it's what makes them happy to go there, see what they produce it to be collected. But sometimes other people collect illegally, not with the authorization, because who takes care is the person who should eat. Yeah, so basically the motivations and the systems of how to take care of the soil is different.
Interesting. Yeah. So 2 last questions, yes?
Thank you. It was a really exciting presentation. And I know you are interested in the whole part of the gardens, but I'm a agronomist. And I would like to ask you if you ask them if they receive any type of assistance for the garden.
In Rio de Janeiro, the urban, how to translate this? Like,
In Portuguese, if you want.
A gerência de agroecologia, que é o setor que cuida. This part of the public government has an engineer, one agronomist person, professional that gives the assistance. What is the problem? It's one person or two for 56 gardens in the whole city. Yeah, and then how do they change o jeitinho brasileiro to think how to improve this? There is the gardener, there is the chief of the garden, one chief for each garden. There is the integrator, a person that goes from garden to garden to check, oh, this has a problem, oh, this has a solution, this has no seeds, oh, I have extra seeds. So this person is going to be, this person listens the agronomist, and oh, there is a better way to do the gardening or the watering system, this kind of thing. So there is this system. And in Berlin, a few people are professional in some soil-related geography or in other science, but they learn more with each other in the daily basic things. Sometimes they have workshops, but there's no this specific agent from the public government, from the city hall, as I got so far.
In Germany, I would say there are additionally some bookshops that sell particularly these specific things. So the availability of information is probably easier in contrast to Brazil.
Yes, I saw some stores just for environmental books and related to nature, yeah.
And also hands-on these things, so some explanations.
You had a third question?
Yes, it's a very short comment for me. I study public policy, so it's another example how strong they are, especially if you are in development countries. And the other comment is, we in Brazil developed concept, a special concept for food security that involves nutrition. And my question is, if you saw something related to that, a raise of awareness or a raise in choices because of the gardens. So, and I would also to advise you to use this dimension too, because we developed it in 2006, and it's like a very innovative concept that Brazil brought to scene, to the international scene, and and it's super connected with what's happening now about the entrance of ultra-processed food, health issues. So it's really important to light this dimension and also to show that Brazil has this modern view and super connected with what's happening now. Did you notice something?
Yes, regarding the concept, considering the legal background, as you mentioned, it's food security is more related to nourishment.
Yes.
So it's part of the study as an accessory, because without food security, there's no right to food. And they are together and working on it. But regarding the judicial part, the juridical part, talking in law and language, I needed to focus on the right to food as a human right. And because this was a universal law diploma, and regarding the first question
was why not to use our concepts to discuss the right to food, because it's super modern. And the second one was if you notice some awareness of nutrition dimension.
So finishing the first part, so it is part because I also had discussions of what is food appetite, food justice, food democracy. So I have a link of these concepts. And for example, in Rio de Janeiro, in the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, the community garden is associated to the restaurant, the university restaurant. So I did one interview with one person responsible for this project. So the students from gastronomy and also from other areas, they have knowledge and they are implementing this kind of concept in the practice because they produce food that's usable for the restaurant. And in general, the interviews are aware of the food security, but they say with other words like hunger or any other issues, malnourishment, more in Brazil. In Berlin, they are aware. They know, like in the global south or the importance for third countries, but it's not a main thing here. The thing is nature, social part of the day, nature, meet friends, meet neighbors, have bring a cake and share with the other gardeners. But it's not like to
it's
take
not a
produce.
contribution to change habits or to improve health.
Yeah, it's a kind of contribution, but in other ways, not specifically of the food daily needs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gregor. And we keep on with the issue of urban and poly-urban agriculture. Now our presentation by